You wake up. It's dark. No walls, no door, no lock, no shoes. 40 meters away, something with 6-inch claws is deciding whether you look like dinner. This is the life of every human who lived before 10,000 years ago. You were not at the top of the food chain. You were on the menu, somewhere between antelope and, honestly, why not? And yet, here we are, 8 billion strong. So how did our soft, slow, essentially naked ancestors survive hundreds of thousands of years in a world that was specifically built to destroy them? That's what we're answering today. And the answer is stranger and more impressive than you'd expect. First, let's be honest about how bad the situation actually was. We sometimes imagine early humans as these rugged, spear-wielding warriors casually wrestling lions. That's fantasy. Go back 2.5 million years. Early Homo species were small, fragile, still developing cognitively. No fire, no complex tools, no coordinated hunting. Biologically, they were a prey animal, full stop. And the predators they faced weren't like today's. They were worse. There was a prehistoric hyena, Pachycrocuta brevirostris, the size of a lion, with jaws strong enough to crush elephant femurs like breadsticks. There were multiple saber-toothed cat species, the most famous being Smilodon, with canines up to 28 centimeters long. Cave bears that stood 12 feet tall and weighed 1,000 kilograms. Giant crocodiles that make Nile crocs look like pets. There was even a bird, Haast's eagle in New Zealand, that hunted prey roughly the size of a human, with talons comparable to a tiger's claws. These weren't cartoon monsters. These were real, highly evolved killing machines. And our ancestors lived alongside them, often near water sources, which is exactly where every predator also hunts, because every predator figured out the same thing: prey needs water. Wait, and the food comes to you. Early humans were walking into a trap, every single day. So how did they not go extinct immediately? The first answer sounds almost too simple. They stayed together. Think about it from a predator's perspective. You're a saber-toothed cat scanning the savannah at dusk. You see one lone human crouched at a water's edge. Easy meal. You see a group of 25 humans, some already screaming, picking up rocks and advancing toward you with sticks. Suddenly, the wildebeest over the ridge looks a lot more attractive. This is called the dilution effect, and it's mathematically real. In a group of 25, the statistical chance of you specifically being the one that gets grabbed drops dramatically. You don't need to be faster or stronger than the predator. You just need to not be the unlucky one. But it goes beyond math. Groups enabled active defense. Evidence from chimpanzee behavior, our closest living relatives, shows early human groups almost certainly mobbed predators. Not one-on-one combat, which would have been suicidal. Coordinated group responses, screaming, throwing objects, collectively advancing toward the threat. And here's what most people don't appreciate about large predators. They almost never want to fight. A lion that takes a rock to the face is a lion that might not hunt effectively for weeks. That means starvation. Predators at the top of the food chain have razor-thin margins for injury, so they're deeply, structurally risk-averse. They want an easy, clean, low-risk kill. Anything that raises their risk, coordinated noise, group resistance, projectiles, is usually enough to make them walk away. Our ancestors didn't figure this out through strategic planning. They figured it out through the relentless filter of survival. The groups that stuck together made it. The ones that scattered didn't. Natural selection is a merciless teacher. Now let's talk about the thing that irreversibly changed everything. Fire. You've heard fire was important 1,000 times, but I want you to truly understand what fire did to the predator problem specifically. Almost every large land predator has a hardwired, instinctive fear of fire, not a learned behavior, a deep, ancient evolutionary response. These animals evolved in a world where fire was uncontrollable, lightning strikes, volcanic activity. Fire was pure, unpredictable threat. So the instinctual response to it isn't curiosity, it's retreat. Our ancestors discovered that a burning fire created something no claw or wall of rock could replicate, a boundary almost nothing was willing to cross. Imagine being a leopard prowling in the dark. You approach a sleeping group of hominids. You feel heat from 40 meters out. You see light, which destroys your ability to use darkness as a stealth tool, because everything near that fire can now see you coming from 100 meters away. You smell the smoke. Something deep in your brainstem starts screaming at you. You don't attack, you turn around. Night, which had been the single most lethal time for early humans, since most large predators hunt in darkness, suddenly became survivable. Sleep became manageable. Groups slept in shifts. Someone always watched the fire. Someone always watched the dark. And fire did more than repel predators. Smoke drove off disease-carrying insects. Cooking killed bacteria and parasites. Fire-hardened spear tips became significantly more lethal. Fire allowed humans to push into cold environments and highland territories that large predators had essentially to themselves. Before fire, we were something the world happened to. After fire, we started happening to the world. Now let's talk about the cognitive development that truly separated humans from everything else. Language. Not just communication. Complex, symbolic, generative language. The ability to talk about things that aren't physically present, to describe the past, to warn about the future, to say, the thing I saw yesterday near the eastern water, yellow coat, black spots. If you see tracks like this, go the other way. Think about what this means in a survival context. Without language, every individual has to personally encounter a danger to understand it. A young group member who has never seen a leopard has to discover through direct experience, usually brief and terminal. With language, you transmit the knowledge. You warn the whole group. You warn the neighboring group. You warn people who won't be born for another generation by teaching children who grow up and teach their children. Knowledge stops dying with individuals. It accumulates. It compounds. A group's collective understanding of predators in their environment can grow far beyond what any single person could observe in a lifetime. You've essentially turned individual survival experience into a network, a slow-spoken, generational database of everything that can kill you and how to avoid it. The predators had teeth, claws, speed, and strength. Humans had knowledge that never stopped growing. That's not a fair fight, not in the long run. At some point, our ancestors crossed a critical threshold. They stopped being purely defensive and started being genuinely offensive. The oldest known wooden spears are approximately 400,000 years old, found at Schöningen, Germany. What's remarkable is that they're not just sharpened sticks. They're engineered objects, weighted toward the front for aerodynamic stability, shaped for grip and throw technique, made from specific wood selected for its properties. These are products of someone who understood the physics of projectile motion without ever having heard the word physics. But the truly critical development wasn't having spears. It was what spears changed about the transaction between human and predator. Before effective projectile weapons, to harm a large predator, you had to be within its reach, which meant it was within yours. That's an exchange you almost always lose because the predator is faster, stronger, and more armored against damage than you are. A throwing spear changes this completely. Suddenly you can inflict lethal damage from 20, 30, 40 meters away. You can wound a predator without entering the range of its claws. You can coordinate with your group so that wherever it turns, another spear is incoming from another direction. And here's the part that rarely gets discussed. Predators are intelligent animals capable of associative learning. A lion that takes a thrown spear to the flank doesn't need a second lesson. Predator populations that repeatedly encountered humans with throwing weapons developed behavioral avoidance over generations. The fear slowly, inexorably reversed direction. One more underappreciated advantage: our own bodies. We are objectively not impressive sprinters. A lion hits 60 kilometers per hour. A hyena sustains 40. The fastest human alive manages about 45, for roughly 10 seconds before collapsing. But try asking a lion to run at a moderate pace in 30-degree heat for 4 hours. It will die of heat stroke before you do. Humans are one of the only mammals capable of persistence hunting, running prey to exhaustion over extreme distances in warm conditions. We sweat from almost our entire body surface. Most other mammals rely on panting to cool down, which requires them to slow down or stop. We can run and thermoregulate simultaneously. That's genuinely bizarre by mammalian standards. Combined with our upright bipedal gait, which is far more energy efficient at moderate speeds than the metabolically expensive four-legged gallop of large carnivores, we are, in the most literal biological sense, endurance machines. Ugly, slow, soft-skinned endurance machines who can keep going after everything faster has given up. By around 50,000 years ago, everything had shifted. Humans had fully modern language, layered social structures, long-range planning, and coordination at a scale no other animal could approach. They weren't just defending themselves anymore. They were driving entire herds of large animals off cliffs using coordinated fire and noise. They were systematically clearing territories, and they were deliberately hunting the predators that had once hunted them. The archaeological record shows organized killing of cave lions, cave bears, and other apex predators, not just for self-defense. The bones were processed, the pelts were used, the remains were treated with what appears to be ritual significance. It was a statement. We are no longer prey. Here's the sobering part. The story of how humans survived predators is also, unavoidably, the story of what happened to those predators once we stopped surviving and started dominating. The woolly mammoth, gone. The saber-toothed cat, gone. The giant ground sloth, the cave lion, the cave bear, the dire wolf, the Irish elk with its 4-meter antler span, gone. On nearly every continent, within a few thousand years of fully modern humans arriving, the megafauna largely collapsed. The animals that had dominated their ecosystems for millions of years, that had survived ice ages, volcanic winters, tectonic catastrophes, couldn't survive us. Not because we were physically superior, we clearly weren't, but because we had language and fire and spears and accumulated knowledge and the terrifying ability to learn faster than evolution could adapt. We weren't the biggest, we weren't the fastest, we weren't the strongest. We were just quietly, unstoppably, the most dangerous thing to ever walk on this planet. The predators never really understood what they were dealing with. They just learned too late to be afraid.